Welcome again to another series of Off the Record with Kyle Sells Biz. I am your host, Kyle Griffith, managing partner of the NYBB Group and founder and CEO of M&A Network. Every week, we bring industry experts on different aspects of buying, selling, and growing companies. We've had some amazing guests over the past few weeks, and today, just the same, we have a very great guest as well, a great friend of mine and EOS expert, Mitchell York. He's going to be sharing his story about how he got involved in EOS and the clients he's worked with and how he can use EOS to help build your business. Our topic today is sealing the deal, how EOS implementation ensures a profitable business sale. EOS is a system that we have used with our company, MIBB. It's been 2 years, right, Mitch? You have graduated?
Yes, you graduated.
So Mitch was our implementer, and I'm so glad that we got Mitch on, because when you have multiple owners in a company, sometimes to get everyone on the same page can be a challenge. So having someone, a third party, come in like Mitch or a coach or consultant or anyone that can come in and make sure that they can help everyone in your company be in line, row in the right direction, having the right seats, right butts in the right seats, and having the right process, right goals and scorecard. It's important. So I've known Mitch, I think it's been like 5 or 6 years, something like that, I want to think. We were at a networking event, and he just happened to have this book on him. And I know it wasn't by coincidence, right, Mitch?
I always carry one around in my pocket. I got a very big pocket. So
this was an icebreaker. So actually, a colleague of mine, I'll give him his plug. A good friend of mine, he's also sells businesses, Clint Fiore. He actually put me onto this book years ago, and I bought it. And I read halfway through it. I was very impressed. Like, wow, I think I might need some help with this. But I just read like halfway through it, and then I did this. Put it back. I put it back on the shelf, and then, oh my gosh, maybe a couple months later, I was at a networking event with a good colleague of mine, and Mitch. It was the first time we met at this time, and Mitch had the book. I was like, holy crap, I have that book. Great book. And we started working together, and it's been a joy. He's helped us in our business, and he's helped many clients. Mitch has a very interesting background, which I'd like you to share. As you guys know, in our sessions, we like to go a little bit personal, not too personal, but we want to hear your life journey and how you get involved in doing the business you're currently doing, and maybe some case studies, some clients you've worked with. So Mitch is also an advisor on the M&A Network. We have done I think we've done 2 forums so far. We have done forums on core values, and we've done forums as well on this subject matter as well. So Mitch is a good friend, colleague, and experienced business coach and consultant. And Mitch, you want to kind of jump in here and share with the folks your background, your story in EOS?
Sure. Happy to do that. And thanks for inviting me, Kyle. EOS is the Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's a very simple set of tools and principles for entrepreneurial businesses and people who own businesses to just get more of what they want from their business. And I discovered EOS, about maybe 7 years ago. I had been an executive coach, a professional certified coach, primarily for financial advisors and financial advisory practices. One of my clients at the time happened to mention just offhand in a Zoom call that they had their EOS implementer coming in that week. And I didn't know what either of those things meant. And I told him that, and he said, oh, you don't know the book Traction by Gino Wickman? And I'm like, deer in the headlights. And so I ordered the book and read the book in one sitting. And at the end, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry because but I decided to laugh because it presented for me a complete turnaround, 180-degree pivot in the work I was doing with entrepreneurs. I went from kind of being a practice management coach to being able to have a system to teach people in any industry to run their business better. So I started practicing EOS. I became certified to teach it and implement it in companies. And now I'm, I guess, about 5 or 6 years and 300 plus full day implementation sessions into it, and it's been really wonderful for me and my clients. It makes a tremendous difference. It has made a tremendous difference for all types of companies. So I love doing it, and that's what brings me here. And before all of that, I worked in corporate management positions in lots of different industries, media, e-commerce, and at the ripe old age of 66, I figured out what it is that I should be doing, and it's teaching and implementing and facilitating entrepreneurs to get what they want from their businesses. So that's a bit of a intro for you, Kyle.
Also, Mitchell, what I love about you is like you're all in, and if you're teaching something, you have to practice it in your own business. You have to live, breathe, whatever you're doing. So if you guys who are familiar with me, we used to run a UPS franchise, and with like any franchise process or any business you're in, whether it's a franchise or independent company, you have to work within the process. There is a reason why that blueprint works. And there have been some minor tweaks with EOS and as far as how they run things. And you are pretty much all in. They have a conference I think it's next year that's coming up. I don't know, it's like close to 1,000. What's the count?
Oh, it's the EOS conference is an annual conference that it takes place next April in San Diego, and it draws 2,000 people.
2,000.
Not because it can't draw more, but because it sells out every year by October. And companies that run on EOS from all over the United States and beyond go to this conference. It's quite spectacular. So to see all these people that use this system to have a better business. So,
yeah, I was amazed. And sometimes with anything else, I always share with my clients and colleagues that you want to have like multiple conversations, multiple touch points, because we have spoken, but it wasn't until you came into my office. Actually, before you came to my office, we did the forum. And I invited my team to join in that session. And they got, wow, okay, Kyle, we got to get this guy Mitch in here to learn more about EOS. And then you came to our office and you broke it down to us, the 6 different ways and so on. So yeah, sometimes this takes multiple sessions, but I do like that you guys have a process. You run like it works. Like if it doesn't break, don't fix it. Every week you have your level 10s and you have your scorecards, your rocks, everything you follow. So it's awesome. Mensa, welcome to podcast. Mensa's asking, what's the name of the book?
Oh, Traction by Gino Wickman. And there's a whole bunch of other books. This is the main one, but this book is the kind of the template of what Gino discovered or wrote about and discovered about 20 years ago when he was working as kind of a mentor to a number of entrepreneurial companies and puzzling over why they all had the same 100 problems and what he could do to help them solve it. And his aha was that he realized that all the problems that companies had were the result of weakness in one or more of 6 key components. I'll tell you what they are real quick, even though you didn't ask, Kyle. So the 6 key components of having a great business are vision. You need to have everybody on the same page, rowing in the same direction, vision. Sometimes in a company you can think of, if you can picture in your mind, like if you have 50 employees, if you can picture 50 arrows all running in different directions, kind of chaos, and then picture 50 arrows all pointing in the same direction. Which would you rather have if you own a business? So that's vision. Then there's people, which is all about, as Kyle said, the right people in the right seats, the right butts in the right seats, people who get your culture, and people who do a great job. You need to have both. Then there's data. That's a third component, which is you have to run the business with information, not just your hunch or your gut or your opinion, because that doesn't scale very well. And other people can't know what your gut is. And then the fourth component is issues, meaning you need to know how to solve issues as they arise for the greater good of the company. Most businesses will have the same issues next year as they do right now. If you run a business, write down what your issues are. And if you do nothing and don't have a system, just put that away in a little 1-year time capsule and come back next year and look at that issues list. And you're going to be sad because there are going to be a lot of the same issues on the list. Then the next key component is process, which means you have to have documented processes that are simple and followed by everybody in the company. And finally, the last component is the one that the book is called traction, which means execution. You have to be able to execute really well and have systems for execution, because you can have a great vision, but if you can't execute, then vision without traction is just hallucination. That's what we say, and it's really true. So those are the 6 key components of having a great business. EOS just has tools in each of those components that help you do it every single day.
Yeah. And each one of them is equally important. And I think my as a visionary, my favorite is the vision. You have to have some belief, some why, some motivation about what you do, and have this kind of paint that picture. And then I think everything kind of falls in. So I do like, starting with the vision, but having the right people, data. We had a session yesterday, Mitch. We had a roundtable session yesterday. We talked about metrics, KPIs, and margins and so on. So Ezra Fireworker is also one of our advisors with M&A.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't actually, first of all, they don't have good data, right? There's always a saying, garbage in, garbage out. But you must have good data, good financial records, good document keeping, and so on. But you have to be able to analyze and assess that data, right? So there are people running companies. There's money in the bank account, right? We're doing well, but there's more.
And it's a funny thing, because that's probably the number one metric of how business owners in entrepreneurial companies, kind of like that 10 to 250 employee privately held company, if my checking account looks good, my business is okay. And the idea, when you talk about scorecard or the data component, is you want to have a few key numbers. Like if you were on a desert island and you had no connection with the rest of the world, but once a week, a message in a bottle showed up, and it was a 1-page report, and it had like maybe half a dozen key numbers that are the numbers you rely on, the leading indicators of business health. Then you would know what's going on. And in the EOS scorecard framework, it's not just the numbers, but really importantly, it's who owns each of those numbers. So,
accountability.
Yeah, you could have a number for sales. Your sales need to be, and there's a goal. So our sales are X dollars a week, and there's the goal. And then we have a full quarter's worth of data, like a 13-week rolling record. But who owns it? So the person who is the head of sales owns the sales number. And that person has to report to the team every week. And we mentioned at the level 10 meeting, on track or off track. And it creates accountability. And sometimes it's going to be off track and then becomes an issue. And we have a methodology for solving issues when things are off track. So yeah, you have to have good data, but not too much, and have someone who owns it and know what to do when it gets off track, which it will, because we're human.
It's a lot when it comes to running a business. It's tough, and there's actually just one of my passions, that I have, helping business owners put in teams together to assist them with their growth. Folks like Mitchell and having these, because I always tell folks, you always want to be educating yourself. You always want to be learning. So that's one of the reasons why I put these podcasts and have events to inspire and educate business owners. Hey, Mitch, you have some fans here. You have Jessica joining us. Welcome, Jessica. Peter, Winnie, and all of you guys that are streaming and watching me recording. Thank you for joining in. So we talk here about buying and selling companies, right? And you had some clients, some colleagues that have been through the process. I've used EOS. Let's talk about it and apply it to a company that's growing, either in preparation in buying another business, because you can be, before you buy another business, you're going to make sure your processes are run right, because, you don't want to incorporate another business and then the whole ship goes down, right? So
right.
If you're selling a company at the same time, you're going to make sure your business is valuable and ready and prep for an exit. Right. So question for you, Mitch, what are some key things business owners should consider when preparing the business for sale, when we're thinking about EOS or any process for that matter? What are some key things business owners should be thinking about?
If you want to sell your business and you want to sell it for its full potential value, however businesses in your industry are measured with whatever multiples of revenue or EBITDA that apply, every time that something is wrong, the buyer puts a discount to your fair market value. So for example, if everything revolves around the owner. The owner makes all the decisions, and they haven't learned how to delegate and elevate to their unique ability because their people component is weak. They don't have the right people in the right seats who they are confident enough to delegate to. Knock off a couple of points for that one. Let's say that, in that due diligence, that buyer is going to probably talk to a lot of employees. And how do they feel? Hey, what's the culture of this company like? What are this company's values? And they talk to 10 different people or 20 or 30, and they get 10 or 20 or 30 different answers. Knock off a few more points on the sale price. Oh, let's see your processes. Are they documented somewhere? Yeah, I think they might be on the F drive. Let me look. And maybe they're on the D drive. And then
it's in a filing cabinet, Mitch. Not even.
Oh yeah, that's right. Somebody go get the manual. We did it like 4 years ago, remember? And then oh yeah, we had the manual. Do people follow these processes? And how do you know that? Do you measure a process? Do you talk about it a lot? Socialize the process? Do you review the process? Oh, you don't? Take a few more points off. And then, hey, let's look at the leadership team. How together is this leadership team? Tell me about your meetings. How effective are your leadership team meetings? What leadership team meeting? We don't have leadership team meetings. Oh, well, how do you know what everybody's doing? Well, we catch each other in the hallway. We send text messages, and so on. Oh, and do you have a way to how do you solve your problems? Well, eventually someone yells loudly enough, and that's, we kind of do what the loudest voice says. So all these things.
Or you lose the client.
Yeah, or some combination. And so, you can see the kind of cash register in your head, the visual picture. And each time it's like, that price just went down 10%. The price just went down 10%. That's really what it's all about. A buyer is looking for, any buyer of a business looking for, how there are always going to be things they don't know. But to what degree can a buyer come in and have the business start to do what it's supposed to do as quickly as possible? And if companies are strong in all the 6 key components that I mentioned, then it's a lot easier. All of a sudden, the company is like really valuable. And EOS, we've worked with companies where, and I've talked to people personally where the typical multiple of EBITDA in a particular industry might be 5, and this company sold for 8 times. And why? Because their buyer came in and like, there's nothing to do here. They have the right product in the right market. Everybody knows what they're doing. They talk, they communicate, they have a great culture. Yes, I'll buy that business and I'll pay more for it because of that, because I'll save so much time on the back end with integration, which is everybody's least favorite thing to do, integrate one business into another.
But that's a whole other conversation. I'm actually going to do a session on, post-merger integration, because, once you've made acquisition or once you've sold, in a lot of cases, you're still running that ship for a little bit until everything is fully transferred. So there's
for a long time, and a long, painful, sleepless time.
Yeah. You mentioned one thing, culture. I'm getting like little chills when I mention culture because, holy crap. Because
live TV.
Yeah, culture. So with, everyone talking about, technology and all that, innovations and so on, but business is people, man. The person or the company or the vendor or the customer, the client, that's going to be using the end product is a person, right?
Yeah.
And people create products, people create systems, people run teams. There's going to be, unfortunately, there's already been some job loss because of tech, but we are in a people business. So when you're contemplating or even having the thoughts about retiring or taking some chips off the table or selling your company, the people that you're brought along for that ride, they're important. A lot of those conversations I've had with my clients is that they don't want to sell their companies to just any regular person, or anyone that don't understand their culture and what they've built.
Yes.
Right. Now, it does depend on who the acquirer is, because sometimes they may absorb that company and the new company may have to adopt the acquiring company culture. But if you have great personnel, some key personnel with agreements in place, like what you mentioned, at some point, not early in the process, but at some point, that buyer is going to be interviewing the respective key personnel. And if one personnel says, "Hey, by the way, our company policies here on Fridays, we are whatever. On Fridays we're off. We don't come in on Fridays." The next one says, "Hey, every other month we go on vacation." Or next one says, "Oh, these documents are supposed to be held and put in this folder." Next person says, "By the way, it's okay for us to name it, whatever it is." If everyone has a different saying something different, like that's a big problem. They're not not pretty much in line. And then you also have the skeletons in the closets as well, right? It's all going to come out.
Yes.
So let's talk about the process. Let's talk. You have to go in too deep. Let's talk about some of the implementation of EOS and steps, some initial steps business can do just to start cleaning things up and what they need to be addressed before they go to market or before they buy a business.
Yeah, well, you mentioned at the beginning there the idea of values, which gets totally poo-pooed by like core values. Oh yeah, we have core values. Hey, who's got our core values? They're written down someplace. We wrote them down like 12 years ago, and that gets completely overlooked by so many companies. Or they come up with something and someone writes it down and like, yeah, that looks good. In EOS, part of our implementation, we actually have a series of implementation days that are spaced out. On the second implementation day, the leadership team sits down and we go through a pretty significant exercise to determine what your core values really are. The handful of guiding principles that determine whether people are right for your company. And when you know what those are and you start to infiltrate them into the business, you have 4 or 5 core values. And when people are doing things right, you tie down that activity or that what you notice to the core value. Hey, that's exactly what we need to see. That's this core value. Or they do something against your core values and you say, that's not keeping with our core values. We can't have you doing that. So core values determine whether people are right people for your organization. We talk about right people, right seats. Right seats means they do a good job in their job. But if you have someone who does a great job, but they drive everybody else crazy because they don't adhere to the values of the company, that's a wrong person in the right seat. Doesn't work. You could also have someone that you love them because they really live the values of the company, but they're not effective in their job. Right person in the wrong seat. Until you have all the right people in the right seats, no one has enough time to do their work successfully. So what we do in EOS is we always start with, whenever there's a business owner that has some degree of frustration, they have the right product in the right market, they want to grow, the status quo is no longer good enough, and they find somebody like me or they find me. What do? We sit down for 90 minutes like I did with your leadership team, and I teach them the tools of EOS. I just say, here they all are. Here are the tools in an hour and a half. And they can use them. And but then if they want help, then we can do an implementation of EOS. So the first day is I teach the tools of EOS, the 5 major tools of EOS in that day. And we start to work on them together and build out a framework, an accountability chart, a scorecard, how to do a great leadership team meeting, things like that. Setting 90-day goals, which we call rocks. Then a month later, we do the second day. We start answering questions that there are 8 questions that relate to the company's vision, where it wants to be in 10 years, in 3 years, in 1 year, in the next 90 days. And what are its core values? Where is it focused? What's its sweet spot? Where does it want to, what's its marketing strategy, but in a very formatted way. In fact, in 2 pages, we end after the third full day of implementation, we will have completed a 2-page document that's the roadmap, the blueprint for their future for the next 10 years. We revisit it, we revise it, but they have this template, which they can then start to educate everybody in the firm. This is our vision. Here's where we're headed. And you get everybody in the company aligned. And once you have all that, then we meet every 90 days to set new goals and solve problems. And once a year, we meet for 2 days with the leadership team to work on team health and set the stage for the next year. We go through that cycle twice. And after 2 years, like with you, it's, hey, graduation day. We should have had the mortar boards and, count them down, but we skipped that part. But, you graduate because you've learned it all. And some companies go longer, some go shorter. They do whatever they're going to do. But it's the idea that every company needs if you want to have a successful business, you need a system. Pick one, but it has to be your operating system that you're going to use. This is the NYBB way of doing things. And if you want to work here, this is the way, not some other way. And every company has to have that to be successful.
I couldn't agree more. And we have someone in Chrome Clapper. I don't know if that's your real name or not, but maybe that's the name of your computer. But Chrome Clapper on YouTube said keyword accountability. And everyone is held accountable.
And something
top to bottom, from
yes,
left, right,
everybody
up and down, sideways, everyone's accountable.
Just like two things about accountability. One is that a lot of people think accountability is a scary word. It's a dirty word, like, oh my God. And a lot of times we'll get a leadership team together, and there might be someone who's never been held accountable on the leadership team, and they are sometimes really intimidated by, wow, it looks like now finally I'm going to be held accountable. But accountability is a gift, and especially when you are able to push accountability down through every corner of the organization, because somebody who, just think of somebody in a job, that they are doing a good job, but they don't get a lot of recognition sometimes. And sometimes they're wondering, like, what does my boss think about me? And they're just waiting for that pat on the back. Sometimes it comes, sometimes it doesn't, depending on the culture. If that person has a number, if they have a measurable, and if they have their own rock for the next 90 days, rock is just a goal, you get to a point where everybody in the business has a number. Everybody has their rock. Everybody understands their seat on the accountability chart and their the five most critical roles. When they know they're doing that and they're hitting that number, pats on the back are nice, but they don't need it, because they know they're doing a good job. So that's a key thing about accountability, top to bottom, and it has to be everywhere in the organization for things to return to your theme of the buyer wants it, the seller wants maximum value. So, the buyer wants maximum value for the company. If everybody is accountable and hits their numbers and works out the issues that keep them from hitting their numbers, you have a happy company. Happiness is actually part of the equation. People deserve to be happy in their business, especially the owners. They're often the least happy. They're working themselves to the bone because they don't trust anybody, or people around them aren't doing what they need to do. So yeah, accountability is not a dirty word, folks.
Yeah, awesome. And if anyone has any comments or questions, feel free to enter them in the chat. We will be going for another maybe 10, 15 more minutes or so. So if you have questions, comments, we are streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter. So if any questions, put them in the chat. We get right back to you. Talking on employees, so I do believe in employee empowerment as well. So a lot of businesses actually hold back employees sometimes. Like, so you want to give them the opportunity to share and to actually do new tasks that challenges them and stretches them. I was at a conference for the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Biz, and I forgot who the speaker was, but he was saying something to the fact that employees actually follow the leadership, right? So there are different types of leadership styles, and in a style where the leader is just almost like dictating, like, you do this, you do that, and pretty much all information is coming from top down without any inclusivity or any of the team sharing it back with him or her, whoever the leadership team is. employees just kind of go in that robotic mindset. I'm doing my task, that's it. They don't care about anything else, and don't give them a chance to kind of evolve. And he spoke a lot about meetings, board meetings or company meetings, where some employees actually are engaged more and they speak out, and some are more quiet, more subdued, and sometimes they want to share, an idea or something to help out, whatever, but their voice is overpowered, overshadowed by other members. So we actually talked about going before the meeting starts for each employee to kind of share whatever the topic is for the meeting or whatever they're going to be talking about. Prior to the meeting, kind of share that, prior, and then kind of essentially build conversation about it, so that the employees that don't always get their voices heard can actually have some involvement in the process, whether it be a new product that's going to market, whatever the case may be. Just creating more involvement. And it just talked about, sometimes we mentioned before about having the right butts in the right seats. You may have an employee that's a great employee that but can be function as a manager or function as a different role. So essentially giving the opportunity to sometimes tweaking things a little bit so you can step a little bit out of their comfort zone and evolve and have some ownership. One other thing I would share is that you have the classic scenario where, let's say you go on vacation, Mitch, right? You go on vacation a lot, you take breaks, right?
Yeah.
And that employee is calling you, your phone is ringing, oh shoot, something has happened on the job, I need to take care of this. But don't answer the phone, right? They call you up and say, hey, Mitch, the computer's down. I can't find that file in the F drive you were looking for, right? Earlier, right? You didn't call them back. They call back, hey, Mitch, I need to find the file. This customer needs it. I need your help. Don't answer the phone. The third time, the next call, guess what the call is? Oh, by the way, Mitch, I found it.
Often. Yeah, because when people have to, they'll figure out a way.
People figure it out. So don't bring problems. Be a problem solver. So giving folks opportunity, employees chance to expand their knowledge and learn and master their job and be held accountable. So that all goes back to the accountability team.
When you mentioned something, the idea of you have a leader or a manager, and certain people that never get that or don't get that opportunity to step up. And one exercise that we do is we have people write down in kind of a 4-quadrant grid their activities. Like, just think about your activities over the course of a week. And there are things that you like to do and you're good at. That's 1 quadrant. Things you love to do and you're great at. Those are 2 quadrants on the top. On the bottom, there are things that you don't like to do, but you're good at. Remember that one. And things that you hate to do and you're bad at. Most managers have gotten rid of or delegated things that they hate to do and they're bad at. So they want to spend more time in the upper part. The trap is things that you don't particularly like, but you're good at. And every time you're doing something, you think, boy, this is not a good use of my time. Consider that it could be a great use of someone else's time. It could be an opportunity for somebody else. And you don't just throw stuff over the wall without people being ready to catch it. But if you identify those things that you can relinquish and you can delegate and elevate to your unique ability, then someone else gets an opportunity to grow. So it starts with leadership, leaders of a company being able to build extensions of themselves, because that's the only way businesses can grow. You have to, as an owner, build extension of yourself. And then the people who are on your leadership team, ultimately, if your business is a growth business, have to build extensions of themselves so that the business can grow. And the only way to do it is to delegate when people are ready. So that's a very important point.
Good point, Mitch. And I want to transition. I want to hear some stories. I know EOS has been through thousands of clients. You've been doing this for a long time. Can you share some success stories where EOS has made a significant impact? Because maybe sharing your stories might give some folks a real life understand, like, this does, whether it's EOS, anything else, like having a process to follow in a system, like that's what you want to have in your respective company. So maybe you can share some success stories you've had over the years.
Sure. I mean, with this is true for any company that in all the companies I've worked with, and I don't know, there are probably, 50, 60, 70 companies over the course of probably more actually, but let's just say it's around 50. There are only 2 that didn't work out and didn't implement EOS because, as it turns out, they didn't have the right product in the right market. And that became the linchpin. So if you have the right product in the right market, because if you don't, EOS is a system that's not going to, you need a strategy. EOS is not a strategy. But if you do have that, I can think of one company that is in the real estate brokerage business, family-owned business, and it came from a place of not having really good processes in place, not having really good data in place. And over the last 2 years, they've doubled their revenue because everyone started to understand what the numbers are. Everyone started to understand what their roles are. And you didn't have, and they stopped having all this cross current. And they also learned as a leadership team that they actually need to sit down in a room together every week to work on issues and move the barriers out of the way to make it work. And that's true for, I mean, I can't think of a company that I've worked with where that hasn't been true. So whether it's a company in, real estate, financial services, manufacturing, engineering, there's another company that I work with that does geospatial surveying. And they've been implementing EOS for about 5 years. And it is amazing to sit down with this group of people, this leadership team, because they've grown tremendously over the last 5 years since they started implementing EOS. And the thing that impresses me most with this company is they speak the EOS language. They talk about core values. They have quarterly all hands meetings with their entire team, on Zoom, and they review with them the key elements of this 8-question vision traction organizer that I've mentioned to make sure that everybody knows what the core values are and where the company's headed and what its goals are. And they've doubled in size, and they're going to double again in size. So it's funny, thinking about unique experiences, they're not so unique. I mean, if companies implement, and I'm not saying EOS is not the only system. Don't ask me what the other systems are. I've never taken the time to learn because I don't care. Someone else can care about the other things that are out there. To me, like, pick your system, and if it works, follow it religiously, and don't make any changes to it. Don't think that, and this is what I find sometimes, and companies get in their own way. They'll take they'll take let's say our format for a great weekly team meeting, and they'll say well, we don't really like this particular 5-minute module, so we're going to skip that part. And they give themselves permission. And then after a while, I hear about it, or I kind of audit one of their meetings, and I'm like, what happened to that? What happened to the headline section? Oh, well, we didn't really like doing that. And I take my virtual stick out and, hit them about the head and shoulders, because why would you change a system?
We have gotten a bunch of those sticks too, Mitchell. So
don't pick your system and then follow it religiously. Yep. Don't change anything, because it's like if you're in a boat, and I'm not a boater, but if you're in a boat and you say, let's change direction by 1 degree and set out into the ocean. Well, after a certain amount of time, you will be in a different continent than the one you planned it on landing on. So pick your system and stick with it. Yes. And the companies that have done that have uniformly done beautifully with their growth strategy.
This conversation goes, I mean, you had so many triggers there for me. I mean, we are short on time. It goes so many different directions. I may come back to it if time permits, but so with M&A Network, we run these CEO masterminds. We get the business owners together on a monthly basis, and we talk about issues and challenges in their business. And we all chime in and we help them with their business challenges, help them improve their business functionalities and so on. I mentioned that because the question I have for you, Mitch, is with EOS, you have an issues list, and we have a long list. We always want to shorten it, right, to deal with the issues that that's right top of mind, that gives you the biggest impact. What has been consistent for you out of all the clients you've had? What's a consistent challenge or problem most businesses have had over the years since you've been working as an EOS certified EOS implementer? What's one or two consistent issues that you come across your desk?
Well, when I meet with my leadership teams on a quarterly basis, one thing that we always do as part of the quarterly is we take an inventory of any right people, right seat issues. So if a company has 50 employees, I will ask the leadership team, just list the names of people who are either a right person issue, culture, or a right seat issue, their job effectiveness. And then we decide in the next 90 days, are we going to do anything about any of these people issues? Anything from a conversation to a warning, to a termination, to moving the person to a different seat or whatever. So that's a consistent thing that brings change.
People.
Yeah, it's all roads, right, lead to people. And then I guess another consistent thing, and one that's increasingly important, is looking at companies' processes. I'm going to turn my back for 1 second. EOS recently came out with this book about.
Okay, need me a copy, okay, Mitch?
Yeah, I will. It's cleverly named Process.
Yeah,
it's about process.
That's a pain. Process is a pain point of mine. So,
and process is everybody's least favorite thing to do and talk about. Because they think it's going to take forever and it's complicated. EOS has a very simple approach to having better process design. And in a very tiny nutshell, it's about documenting process in what we call a 20-80 approach. Document the 20% of a process that gets you 80% of the way there. And this very slim book, it's pretty slim, but it's powerful, can be the key to that. So we always talk about what are the processes that need to be documented soon. And the last thing that's uniform is that we want entrepreneurial companies to live in a 90-day world. We want them to figure out when we set in every quarterly meeting the 3 to 7 most important objectives for the next quarter, it's 3 to 7. It's not 3 to 17. It's not 3 to 27, because if everything's important, then nothing's important. So we figure out what are we going to focus on and get done. So those are really the things that are the building blocks of having successful companies.
Okay, so I'm with you 1,000%. I made notes here because this is consistent even in the clients that I service that looking to sell their company. People and process, right? HR, right? I mean, that's business is all about people, right? So having a documentation. You said something earlier about having a documented process that is simple, right? Easy to follow by everyone.
Yes.
Right. So you onboard a new employee. What's the 90-day onboarding process? Right.
Yes.
Right. What's the steps in place from the time to become an employee?
Yes.
Or you have a new client. What's the 90-day process for a new client?
Right. What's so hard about documenting that, and what's so hard about following that?
Yeah.
Remember though, if you write a process, that's good. You have to do a couple of things. You need to train people in it. You need to decide what you're going to measure or monitor, because if you just throw it over the wall, don't expect too much. You need to lead and manage people to accountability in that process. We call that LMA. And you need to review the process every now and then to make sure it's still accurate. But if you do that, it makes life, it takes the interference and the static out. So process is really your friend, not your enemy.
So we have some questions, and then we want to get some final thoughts as we wrap things up here. So, I can't help but put a smile on my face when I say your name, Chrome Clapper. Right. So I wish we were like in a Zoom or audio where you can come and speak, but I want to hear you, man. So, okay. So he's asking here. I'm trying to read this. It says, understanding each organization business is different. but if you could average out, how long does it take to implement EOS for a notable change in a business?
2 years is the answer.
2 years.
And that's our, EOS, the EOS system is a 2-year process. We have 5 meetings with the leadership team, full day meetings each year, after which you graduate. But it's always up to the company. Like EOS folks like me, we have no contracts with anybody. So we have our first day, and if people say that was good, but we don't, we got everything we need, thanks, then that's it. There's no obligation. But if you want to do it right and have it be sticky, then we have these 5 full day sessions a year for 2 years. And some people want to continue after that, having me facilitate their quarterlies and annuals, in which case I do. But that's the cycle. It's a 2-year cycle. It's worked that way for 20 years and for tens of thousands.
Wow, it's been 20 years?
It is. Yeah, EOS has been around for 20 years.
Amazing. Loyson Gordon is asking a question. Is there a self-study version for small business owners with 10 employees? We don't have the budget right now, but love to start implementing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right here.
So first, read the book. And what's really great is if you go to the EOS website, eosworldwide.com, eosworldwide.com, there are many, 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 many free tools and downloads. And there's a ton of YouTube content published by EOS. You can subscribe to the blog. There's a lot there you can get started. Many of my best clients started as self-implementers. They started, and then they reached the point where they said, okay, now we want to kind of up our game. Let's see if we can get professional help to do it. And that's how you do it. You can absolutely start on your own. Some companies want to do many companies. In fact, the companies that show up at our annual conference, there are, hundreds upon hundreds of self-implementer companies. They do it more professionally, obviously, with professional certified EOS implementers, where we don't let them skip stuff that they don't like, or they wind up, it can be easy to get little things, just get them wrong, but keep going because no one's pointing out to you that no, you don't have that quite right. But still, you can get a whole lot out of it by just starting yourself. So I'm all about, hey, just read the book and get going.
Yeah, and that's what I did. And sometimes you need someone to give you that virtual ruler, so that was me, especially when you have multiple moving parts in your company and so on. So definitely get the book, and there's a lot of great information out there. YouTube is your friend, by the way.
Yeah.
And so Loy said he just ordered it. Awesome. And I like Keith. He said people, process, technology. I actually like that order. I may actually put process before people, technology. A lot of people actually jump straight to tech. Like before you start building things, you want to, have a process first, as far as before you start spending money on technology. But every single process has some aspect of tech. You can't get around it. So I'm actually going to do a show on that. Any final thoughts? I know we can go on for a long time, but I just love this conversation.
Yeah, let me just, for anybody that sees this live or in the future, I mentioned this wonderful tool called the Vision Traction Organizer, the 2-page strategic plan. I used to write strategy plans. They were not 2 pages, and that can get everybody on the same page. If you'd like, I'll email you the template in Word that you can use. You can email me at mitchell.york@eosworldwide.com, and I'll send you the Vision Traction Organizer template. It's a phenomenal tool for your business or for a personal, for a leader to map out their own plans and vision for the next several years. I have one for myself personally, and I think everybody should. So, there's an offer to make it worth it for people.
Awesome. And I just put your contact information in the comments where folks can get a hold of you as well. Any final thoughts as far as just wrapping things up? Any takeaways from today?
I guess my parting thought is that without entrepreneurship, we wouldn't have anybody employed in this in this country. And, you know, some enormous
True.
percentage of companies are entrepreneurial companies that are, you know, 10 to a couple of hundred people. And they're also the ones that are least likely to have owners that are getting what they want out of it. And people who have the gumption, chutzpah, call it what you want, to start a company and run a company deserve to have happier lives. And it all relates to just being able to simplify things and have a great system under your feet to make it all possible. So I encourage people to make sure that they think that way. Don't just wake up and let your business run you. You are the commander of your business, not the other way around. That's my parting thought, Kyle.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. You are the commander of the business, and it all starts with vision, but you definitely need to have that, your core values in your process. Everything you mentioned, right? People, data, information, issues list, and then you gain traction. So I love that. So I shared in the chat, we do have some upcoming events coming up on the 27th. We do have a mixer in the city. There's a link there where you can attend. There's also a link in the chat for a session that Mitchell did for the M&A Network on core values. So if you like more in-depth information on traction, on EOS, on Mitchell and the process that he covers and what we went through in our company for the past 2 years, there's a link there, core value link. You can learn more about that. Before we sign off, Mitch, is anything coming up that you like to share or want to share with folks and get a hold of you?
Well, I gave you my email address.
Okay.
And we are planning to do a fall workshop that will focus on people and process, two of the key areas that give entrepreneurial companies, the most trouble. So we'll do a deep dive on tools related to those subjects. And feel free to send me an email or connect with me on LinkedIn if you want to have more information as those details become available.
Thank you, Mitchell. This has been great. We got some good feedback. We got claps by Jane, got some virtual claps there, and Antonio as well. So, and Winnie, thank you so much. We usually do this every week. I think I'm gonna take a 2-week break. How about that, Mitchell?
You just started. It's summertime. Today's the first day of summer, so there you go.
Yeah, I just got back. I was in upstate New York with the family. Took my daughters to Legoland. We had a lot of fun out there for Father's Day weekend, and I celebrated my daughter's birthday. So the next 2 weeks will be off this week and then the next week, and we'll be back for a bang on. Give you the date right now. It's going to be July 12th. And we're going to have the founder of the OWL app. So we're going to go into tech actually a little bit, Mitchell. So we're going to talk about navigating startup success, insights from a founder's leap from finance to tech innovation. So that'll be our next kickoff session. I'm the founder of the OWL app, which is an audio app platform which competes with the other apps. I'm not going to mention their names, but he's doing some great things there. I love people who start and found businesses because, just blazing a trail and just doing things different, and and maybe this is something he can probably incorporate in his business as well, as he's growing. He's a native New Yorker. He moved to Florida, so we have Jason Hill on the program in 2 weeks. And if you know of any great speakers, any business owners that have been transitioned out or looking to buy a business, or for that matter, advisors like Mitchell York would like to be a guest on our show, definitely reach out to me. We do this weekly, every Wednesday, and it's live. That's all I get, but we will have a recorded available for folks as well. With that being said, Mitchell, everyone that's been joining us live and recording, thank you for watching. Mitchell, I appreciate your insight. You've been a great friend, great colleague, a great implementer. And appreciate your support over the years, and I'll continue working with you as we build out our businesses as well. So thank you, and thank everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, Kyle.